ever judge a podcast by the music that they play at the beginning? I really hope that you don't, because I have so much difficulty picking what kind of music I'm going to play at the beginning of the show. And to be honest, most of the time I pick whatever I like. It just sounds cool. I love the piano riff that's at the beginning of the show because I met my husband swing dancing, just a little random fact, and something about that piano riff just makes me think of that kind of feeling. Hey, it's Brianna Christine Gibson here, and I'm bringing you the 18th episode of the Creative Calling podcast. It's a really fun episode, my very first episode that I ever did live in person with Angela Noble, who I met down here in San Diego, and she is a web designer who has her own business with her husband, and she goes into a lot of really tangible insights of what designers need to know from a business standpoint that maybe they don't talk to you about in school. So if that sounds like something you need to know, you're going to really want to listen in on the show. We talk about a lot of really great things that involve working with clients, setting up quotes. I don't want to give it all away. Just go ahead, we'll jump in, get into the show. Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the Creative Calling podcast. I have Angela Noble with me today. Hey Angela.
Hey Brianna, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Angela, tell me a little bit about what you do, how you got started, and your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a designer. I started off in school. I went to a liberal arts college where I was in the graphic design program. So I'm formally schooled in print design.
Okay.
But, that's actually not where my clients and I guess life took me. I'm more focused in the digital space now, doing web design, email marketing, and coding. So, yeah, I think just kind of happened organically into like whatever was needed, or I didn't really have a desire to be a web designer.
Yeah,
it was a really big challenge transitioning from print to web, but that's kind of where I am now. And
were you like traditionally trained in print? Because I feel like that's just like dying. I feel like I didn't learn anything about that in school.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
Not very much.
Yeah.
In terms of like pre-production and all that.
Yeah. So that was pretty much my full 4-year experience.
Okay.
Was very traditional print and learning about printing presses and finishing techniques and stuff like that. There was no web stuff.
Oh, there wasn't any web?
No, yeah.
So you learned that all on your own? You taught yourself?
Yeah, I will say my senior year, I guess the last semester, they just started offering web stuff.
Okay.
So I did, like everyone in my class, we were all about to graduate, bad cases of senioritis, thought we were awesome at that point. And we took like the web design class with younger kids, and we were horrible, and we were like, what the heck? I'm like, I'm cool. Like, I'm almost done, like what? And so we all just hated it. We're like, this is stupid. We're never going to need to know this. And, that was the year my school stared offering it. So it was just the timing of it, And I think since then, all of us have had to learn how to do web.
Yeah. And what resources do you use to learn those types of things?
Yeah, so, honestly, I didn't learn it because I wanted to, honestly. I was trying to transition from my first job out of school into something else.
Which was what?
So I was working in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a little bit of design, but the company, they didn't really see that they needed another designer, and they were really pushing me hard into, like, the marketing path of, like, presenting to clients, research reports, that sort of stuff, with minimal design. And I was like, I really want to be a designer. I just spent 4 years of my life getting good at this, and or getting a little bit good at it. So I really wanted to do that, and so I was looking for jobs in like, traditional designer, but every job was like, you have to know how to do web design. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to learn this. I don't really want to, but especially since I knew I sucked at it because I had already tried it.
How did you convince yourself that you could be good at something like that? Because I feel like some people get so overwhelmed, they're like, I just can't start over, I'm not that good, or...
Well, honestly, that class I took senior year that I was so resistant to, it made me feel like I was back as a freshman again. Like, that's how terrible my designs were. But I got better at design, and then by then I was like, I'm a good designer or whatever. So I thought, well, the same must be true for web design. It's just going to take me a few years, just practice. That's, I guess what kind of motivated me to just try it, and I'm a designer, and there are definite things that obviously carry over, like, typography, color and layout, and, there are some similarities. So I kind of was like, okay, I can do this. I can definitely do this.
So I know you have a full-time job, right, as well as a little bit of freelance on the side.
Yes, I have a full-time job where I am a designer for an advertising agency, and I also run a business with my partner where we do pretty much the same thing, websites and print design, logos, branding, marketing, that kind of stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So what's your role in the business side?
So in our business, which is called Covalent, I do all the design and most of the business stuff. So accounting, marketing,
And your business partner does?
He's a web developer.
Okay.
So he does all the coding. So you
don't have to do the web design?
So I do the visual design, but
cool.
Not the coding, not the programming. Yeah.
Cool.
So
that's a nice balance.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, and your business partner is also your husband?
Yes.
Okay.
We're life partners and business partners, so it's a very convenient thing when we're, always talking about the business and planning for the future with the business, and it's
You're
not
on the
like
same path.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something tricky that I'm trying to work out in my marriage right now. Is like, all right, how are we going to make sure we're both on track right now and feeling like we're both getting what we want out of life. So that's cool that you have that.
Yeah.
Are there any challenges you feel like have come with working together, though, and being in the same business all the time? Maybe that it gets like it never stops.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing, is that when, we do both have full-time jobs, so when we are working on our business, it's on the weekend, it's at night, it's in the morning. And when we have a big project, that's all the time. I mean, there's no breaks. And we both are working toward the same goal, so it's not like annoying to be like, you're working all the time, because it's both of our interests for each other to work.
Yeah.
So that works, but it definitely is like, okay, we haven't done anything fun in a while, or we're not giving our friends the time that we should be because we're like, we're always working every weekend, because we can't work during the week when we're working, at least during the work day. So, yeah, that's definitely been a challenge for us. But, yeah, there are lots of advantages that come with those challenges.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of finding that middle ground.
Yeah. What would you say is the middle ground that you found where you can balance having time with your friends and doing fun things?
Yeah.
What kind of things do you do?
Yeah, so, I think we try to make it a priority at least one day a week, whether that's a weeknight or a weekend day or something, that we hang out with one of our friends and do something fun that's not work-related and don't talk about work. I mean, we don't necessarily say, like, okay, these are the rules, but we kind of make an effort to do that pretty regularly on a weekly basis, yeah.
How would you describe what you see in the future? What are these goals that you feel like you're both working towards?
Our main goal is to just focus on the business. We, at some point, don't want to have our full-time jobs. Okay. We've talked to a lot of other people who are like mentors and who run their own businesses, and most people, it's kind of their goal to have a big staff and like a big office and stuff, and honestly that's really neither of our goals. Like we just kind of want to make ends meet and have work to kind of pay for what we want to, but not like work to earn like a bunch of money and have like a bunch of staff and just grow. Like that's not what we want. We just want to be comfortable and have a lot of time with each other to both work and do fun things and travel.
Yeah.
So we just see a future where the two of us could be traveling and working a little bit and exploring the world a little bit too, and just kind of funding it with our work, but not thinking like, oh, we have to grow more, we have to make more money, but just getting to like a sustainable point where we can live comfortably and just be with each other.
So you kind of try to take maybe the clients that have bigger projects where you can get more money, but you're not having to divide it between a huge staff.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't really want to ever have a staff. Right now we have one project that we've hired a contractor to do, another web developer.
How did you find them?
Chris, my partner, used to work at Intuit, and he met a lot of really awesome and talented people there, and one of those people we talked to about this project, and he was excited about it, and we were like, hey, well, we need an extra hand, so you want to help us? So that's worked out really well.
Cool.
And he has a full-time job at Intuit still, so he's not like, oh, I need you to hire me full-time or whatever. It was kind of like he was comfortable working on a contract basis. So I think that's kind of what we see as if we do need extra help, if we have projects that we need, extra hands for, we can hire contractors, but it's definitely not in our future plans to ever have a real employee.
Yeah, there was one interview I did with Becky, her name was Becky Nelson, and it's just her and her husband and her dog. They have one hired employee, and my neighbors right across the street from my house, they also have their own agency, and it's just them too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and occasionally it's just like you're saying, they contract. Sometimes me, because they know me now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's really part-time for me. It's not even like a sustainable thing. So
right. Yeah, I think that's a really perfect situation.
Yeah, and I don't think when I talked to them, because they did kind of like a little mini interview of me just to kind of like see how I work and what I'm interested in, and they didn't really sound like they're super into growing either. Like, I think of Stefan Sagmeister, and like, I think his studio is actually pretty small. I'm pretty sure like they only have like 5 or 6 people that work in there.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
So, and I don't know if he has any plans to get big, but I think he likes kind of being small so that they can do things like go to Bali.
Right.
Have you ever watched any of his TED Talks or anything like that?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've watched his TED Talks. No, I've definitely read some stuff, but
there's some good ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Like mini retirements and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Cool.
From a business perspective, what do you think are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned since you started?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of lessons. I think that's something that they don't really prepare you for in school, is all the business stuff, dealing with clients. We had a client one time where the scope of the project just totally got crazy and didn't really know what to do. We were like, well, we already did the work that we kind of contracted to do. Now do we like rebid it and you like pay us that and then we like start over basically?
Yeah.
So kind of navigating scope creep is a big one with clients, because they're just like, well, you said you'd build us a website and well, we're not happy with it yet, so keep going. And you're like, well, this is a little bit outside of the scope. So dealing with that and kind of having those experiences and those difficult conversations really of like, well, you have to pay me more to do more. It's a one-on-one thing, so.
Yeah. What have you found are like good resources or lessons that you've learned that you use that help aid those types of scope creeps?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for issues like that is really having a good contract and proposal that outlines the work in a lot of detail, so that you say, we're going to put this web page together for you with this content and you get this many revisions or this much work or this much time for this cost. And if that changes and they're like, oh, we want to do something completely different, then you can go back to it and be like, well, this is what we agreed upon. And if we did what we agreed upon, then you have to pay us. And if we didn't, then we can refigure the numbers and stuff.
Right. So I learned about creative briefs in school, but then I think of agreements as being kind of almost separate. Are you saying they're kind of the same thing in this scenario?
I wouldn't say they're necessarily the same. I think, to be honest, I don't really do formal briefs. Yeah, I guess they're similar, but what I am more thinking about is like a proposal that has like detailed like either hourly to price line items, or like specific descriptions to price line items, or, you know, and especially a contract, which is also a separate thing too, of like, okay, here's what we've agreed to. If we kind of fall out of this agreement, then the contract is no longer valid, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I find that that's really hard for me to keep up onto. I was actually just dealing with that right before I got here. I had a client that's like, oh yeah, I know I said that I liked this project, but actually I don't like it as much as I said I liked it, and now I want to go back, and I'm already thinking like, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with the fact that my friend also helped me on this, and I'm going to have to ask her to help me go back and fix some of that. So
yeah, those are difficult situations, but
you think that you would learn over time, but realistically, like if you never like make a plan, then you're just always in the same boat every time.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you like keep anything, like a document or something? I do this with interviews. Maybe I should do this with clients too. Like questions I had trouble with, and then answers I would have said if I would have been thinking about it, or now that it's after the fact, I would have said this. Do you ever do that with client work?
You know, I don't really have a formal documentation process like that. I think that's a pretty good idea. I definitely communicate to my clients a lot more over email than phone. So I have definitely gone back and referenced, like, what did I say here, and stuff like that, especially if it's in a wordy, awkward email reply where I'm like, trying to, go over the scope or the proposal again. So, yeah, definitely reference those old things for sure.
Do you have a marketing strategy?
So, most of our clients we get from referrals. So we've never done any advertising. In terms of marketing, really the only thing I do is I send email newsletters about, not as often as I would recommend to my clients that they should, but as a design studio, I guess it's, not exactly the same. But what I find is not intrusive, but still reminds people of, hey, I'm still here if you want to do another project. So I send an email about 4 times a year. I try to do quarterly. I've sometimes wanted to do monthly or every other month, and it always ends up being quarterly. So I'm going to stick to that one. But yeah, just showing hey, here's some snippets of our latest blog posts, or here's links to our latest case studies of recent work we've done. And that works wonderfully. It's crazy how good that works, because I send it to all of my past and current clients, as well as anybody who's subscribed to our blog on our website, or any leads that have contacted me that for whatever reason hasn't worked out, but I've still put them into my email system as a lead. So it goes to quite a few people, and it without fail, it's always, someone contacts me the next day, oh, I saw your project on the email you sent yesterday. I want to do a project like that for my business. Yeah. And it's almost without fail that it always generates at least a conversation and, hopefully a new project. Yeah. But so I found that, so cool. Yeah, so I found that really works. I mean, other than that, and that's just to remind people that, hey, we still exist. Someone that we did a website for 2 years ago. But every quarter they get a reminder hey, we're still here, we're doing cool stuff, we've gotten better since you worked with us, that sort of thing. Other than that, we try to blog. We've found, especially if a potential client or a client comes to us with a question that they're just confused about, hey, how do you use Facebook, or how do you set up a Google Plus profile, we'll be oh, that's a great blog topic.
Okay, I was going to ask you, how do you get your topics? Cool. Yeah. So your clients send you questions.
Right, just in conversation, just asking us stuff, or, stuff we find that people are confused about that we know about. We're oh, that's easy. It's not easy to everyone. And then that's a good informative and useful blog post for potential clients or current clients. So, cool. Yeah, blogging is something that we need to do more, I would say. I think it's a super powerful way to kind of become a thought leader and show people you really are knowledgeable about a subject, even if it's not potentially relevant to them. They're at least wow, this person kind of knows what they're doing. So kind of shows you're an expert in that field, whatever you're talking about.
I always try to take one thing away from every interview that I do, and I think I'm going to do the case study one, because I send out an email newsletter, and I think that could be really effective if I actually go through. You actually go through and you tell them what the process was like from conception to the end.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the project. On our website is where we have all the case studies, and we kind of have them categorized by like, is it a website, is it email, is it branding or logo? So depending on the project and the complexity of it, or how much we feel like it could add value or kind of show off our work, we'll go into detail. The one branding project I did for a pretty large company, I have it very detailed there. Whereas for another, company that we just did a logo for in addition to their website, it's like, oh, and we also made them a logo. It doesn't have to be as detailed of like the whole process of presenting concepts and stuff. So it just kind of depends on like the project. But yeah, in every email that I send out, I just have at least 2 projects that I'm like, hey, here's our recent 2 case studies with a link to the case study if they're interested, and a little synopsis of like, we did this website. I find that that's pretty valuable to promote that.
How do you get the clients onto your newsletter list?
So I use MailChimp to manage my email marketing. So whenever I have a lead or a new client, or...
Do you just add them on yourself?
Yeah, I just add them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's... And, there's different theories on, like, the Canned Spam Act, and, like, oh, they have to opt in or whatever, but I'm like, if I'm emailing you every other day about your project, like, I think you're going to be okay with receiving more of, like, a marketing email from me, and I don't think I've ever had anybody unsubscribe. So, and usually people are like, great to see my project in your newsletter. Thanks for promoting me or whatever.
I need to put more of my clients on my newsletter.
Yeah.
Mine mostly goes out to like family and friends because I know they like won't judge me. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that. If I had put my clients in there, they'd be happy to see their projects in there probably.
Totally. And it holds you to a higher standard too of like, okay, did I spell everything right? Is this, does this look right? And for me, I do email marketing. That's one of the services I offer. So it's like, well, obviously if you're getting the email from me, then you know that I'm good at it and it looks good on your phone and your whatever email client you're using. So that's just another way of promoting my work, basically.
So since you're not planning on growing your business to have like multiple employees, what do you think it is that your business is going to need to take it from part-time to full-time?
So, that's a good question, and that's something that I've been struggling with lately. 3 years ago, I actually quit my full-time job to focus on the business, and that was a great time for me to do so. I had a lot of clients in the pipeline and consistent, steady work, and when I quit, I was out looking for clients, and I found 2 full-time job offers. And I was like, well, this isn't really the direction I wanted to go, but one of the jobs, the one I currently have now, was too good to turn down. I work from home. I work remotely.
Okay.
The company's in Ohio, so
wow.
I've only been there once, and
cool.
I've worked there for 3 years. So
oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, so that was sort of an opportunity that was like, this would be really awesome for me. It's a good opportunity. And in addition to that, a lot of the stuff I've been doing for clients at the agency, I take back and turn around. I'm like, well, I'm now an expert on this and I can provide that service to my clients one day. So that's been really good. I think the turning point is going to be, just hitting like a volume of work or like getting like a super big project that I just absolutely cannot support 2 jobs and do. There's been a couple of clients that we've gotten in the past that I was really overwhelmed with, to the point of being like, I need to quit, but it just wasn't the right time for whatever personal reasons and stuff like that. So we're at a point now where it's getting to like, if we do get a really big client, that I'm ready to kind of make that transition again.
Cool.
Kind of as scary as that seems, because it's like unknown and kind of a risk, but yeah, I'm ready to take that leap, I think. And in terms of Chris quitting, I think that'll be a little more difficult since he is very focused on one aspect of our business, where I'm kind of doing a lot of different things and supporting more stuff than he would be, depending on what the project is. So I think he's going to need to be working a little bit longer. And he's new in his career too, honestly. He transitioned from being an engineer to being a software developer about 3 years ago. So he's a little new in his career and he's still learning. And a lot of the stuff he learns at his full-time job, he takes to our business, and I think he still has a little bit left that he can learn. I mean, of course, we can always learn, but you know what I mean? I think that for him, it's more important that he stays in a full-time job for a little bit longer.
And he's okay with that?
Yeah. We've definitely had some projects where it's like, at this point, it's only web development, and sorry I can't help you, but you're really stressed, and there's nothing I can really do short of learning it myself. And there have been times like that where I'm like, oh, maybe you should quit, and I should just keep working. It's still like, in the bigger picture, it makes more sense for me to quit first.
You were saying that you were dealing with difficult clients, that ones that you wanted to quit. How did you handle that? Did you end up following through with them? Have you ever quit or fired a client?
No, I haven't.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah. I've never had a falling out really with a client. We had a pretty difficult one about a year or two ago, and it was a great project, but it just, with some of the people at the client's company, it was a big company, lots of people involved, and some of the people were just not even on board with the project. They didn't even want it to begin with. And other people were obviously hired me to do it. So it was really a conflict within their own company. It was definitely a little bit difficult to work within that sort of environment. And I really thought that by the end of the project, they were just gonna completely stop working with me, even though the CEO of the company was really on board with it, and we had a great relationship. But I really thought that had been tainted by everything that was going on internally with them, sort of the frustration there with how the project kind of ended up. It wasn't what the CEO and I had envisioned or had thought was awesome at first, but it kind of got, a little bit dragged down. And I really thought, this, whatever, it's over. They're gonna pay me. Is that the worst thing that can happen? It's just it's over. But, I'm actually still working with them. I've continued to work with them, not in any more large project capacities, but just in kind of odds and ends. I sort of continue to be their go-to person, which is pretty nice, even though I thought, I don't know, it could be kind of iffy with some of the people there who were just I don't know, just not on board with what the CEO was doing. But yeah, that was really the only time where I thought things were gonna kind of end, or where I wanted them to end. I was like, I'm not working with you anymore, But fortunately it's never gotten to that point where I've had to be like, no, I can't work with you.
What do you think the point would be? What would it have to come to for you to be like, okay, this is done, I'm never gonna work with you anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I even want to find out. Okay. But I guess at that point, we had talked about doing another large project with them at the completion of the initial one. I kind of said to myself, I'm not going to do this project if all of the shareholders involved aren't on board with it, or if they try to kind of jump in and do the work for me, even though they've hired me to do it as the expert. So that was kind of my stipulation of if it comes to that, if they do want me to do this project, I'm going to have a very defined contract and say there can be none of this disagreement about the project itself within the company. So that's a huge deal breaker, is, that sort of attitude and not having all the shareholders on board.
Okay. Yeah, because I come from a family who's very they didn't do conflict resolution very well, and unfortunately I took a lot of that into my freelance. And I've burned bridges, and I regret it. So I'm glad to hear and get other people on the show that talk about how important it is to maintain those relationships. And it's cool because now you're saying they even work with you more.
Right.
And you're kind of their go-to person now.
Yeah.
For everybody listening, that's good advice, because you don't want to be like me and make people angry.
Yeah, especially even if I did decide not to work with them, you still wanted to end on a good note, because like I said initially, all of our projects and customers are through referrals. It's really, I want them to refer me. Even if they decide, they can't use me for whatever reason, I still want the guy who I did enjoy working with and who enjoyed working with me, I still want him to be able to refer me. And I think that's really important.
All right. We talked a lot about balancing the full-time work and life. What do you think are the best tools if people were going to go out and make their lives easier today? What tools would you refer them to keep all of their life in balance? Online, things you have around your house. even just strategies that you employ. Like every morning I have a routine of this in the day and then this and this, and it keeps me all on track.
I mean, routines are definitely important to me, especially, you know, when you are trying to run a business or you are trying to kind of get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. Having kind of a structure and a routine is super important. I always, at the beginning of every day or week, both, I guess, will kind of lay out, okay, what do I want to do this week? Like, what are my goals? I think being super goal-oriented is really important, of like writing down or putting in some sort of task management system to kind of make sure like you're going to be on task, you're getting things done, but more or less just being able to check things off the list and do things in an efficient way. I think having some sort of list of your projects and due dates is important. We use Redbooth as our project management tool. It's not a super popular one. Most people I tell it to have never heard of it, but it's free until you reach a certain level. You know, Chris and I use it to collaborate on and kind of question things and collaborate on files and tasks, and we put due dates in there. We log our hours we spend on stuff.
That does a lot.
Yeah, so it definitely does a lot, and we could also have contractors be on there too and assign them tasks and stuff and kind of collaborate that way and communicate. Definitely recommend that one. And Dropbox is like amazing. We have the Dropbox for Business, and it backs everything up, so you never have to worry about your files getting deleted or corrupted or lost or whatever. And just collaborating with each other, our contractors and our clients too. I mean, how many times does a client say like, oh, let me email you the 5th revision to this Word document, or like 10 photos that are 10 megabytes each, and you're like, email is not the best for this. So we always try to get our clients hooked up on Dropbox, and they can drop their files there, and it just makes everything so organized and easy.
Well, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to
absolutely.
interview with me. And for those who are listening, you can't see, but we have 2 really cute dogs with us. What are their names again?
Dexter and Layla.
Yeah, they've just been sitting with us, and they haven't really like made any noise almost the whole time, and I'm really impressed. And I have one on my lap.
They love it. Well, we all had a super good time. Thanks for interviewing me. It was great to be on the show.
I hope you got as much out of that as I did. I had a great time interviewing Angela at her house with her cute little puppies. We even created extra value for you in this special episode. If you go to creativecallingpodcast.com and you check out episode 18, you can get a free quote template for your clients that lists out the line items that we talk about earlier in the show. And that's just one way that we want to try to make your life a little bit easier. We know that life can get really crazy, so this show and this blog is all about trying to make it just a little bit easier on the freelancing designers and solo creative business owners that are out there. So go ahead and check that out, and if you want to support the show even more, go to our Instagram account. It's at creative.calling. I create really awesome little 15-second clips of the show that you can see with some fun little artwork, and you can also find the show on iTunes now. So if you want to go ahead and start downloading that, please do. As always, you can find us on SoundCloud. And with that, until next time.